Second half of the parliamentary year, the government will push ahead with new rules designed to stop 7-Eleven-style wage scandals. Tonight we go inside the lobbying push from big business to water down the proposed reforms. That campaign's being led by former Liberal Minister Bruce Bilson. He's now the head of the Franchise Council of Australia. What we can tell you tonight is that the council was paying Bruce Bilson before he even left Parliament, but he never declared it. Pat McGrath reports.
These are dark days for some of Australia's biggest and brightest brands. Exposed for underpaying thousands of staff millions of dollars, they're now bracing for a wave of tougher regulation.
The scale of wage fraud, underpayment, exploitation, illegal behaviour is large and growing, and strong measures need to be done to stop it before it spreads and gets even worse.
Australia's $150 billion franchise industry is the focus of the government's Vulnerable Workers Bill. It promises to make franchisors liable for underpayments by franchisees and gives new investigative powers to the workplace watchdog. Former Caltex franchisee Danny Hanna is backing the government's reforms. He says the business model imposed by Caltex pushed some franchisees to underpay their staff.
Oh, they pretty much control everything. We have to buy the fuel from Caltex. We don't have any control over the price. We pretty much just sell it and get a set commission for every litre that we sell.
In May, Caltex responded to revelations of worker exploitation at its stores with a $20 million fund for underpaid staff. But the company's refusal to accept liability for the underpayments and its decision to start removing franchisees from their stores triggered a protest.
There is unfair treatment. There is totally un-Australian something is happening.
Caltex cancelled Danny Hanna's franchise agreement 3 months ago. The company says he was underpaying staff. He says he just couldn't afford to pay family members who were working at the outlet.
The termination notice had 3 reasons. One of them was paying staff zero wages, which referred to my family members. But we never broke the law. We've fully paid all our staff their entitlements.
Quite often the underlying problem is that the profit-sharing model that the big franchisors have with their little franchisee stores is such that the franchisee can only operate by underpaying.
Alan Fells knows franchising inside out. He briefly ran 7-Eleven's compensation scheme for its underpaid workers and sees the government's new vulnerable workers legislation as essential.
So the law is a sensible balance between putting a lot of pressure on franchisors to make sure the franchisees don't break the law, but still making both of them liable in certain situations.
No, we're not about stopping it. We are about informing the Parliament of the diversity of franchising. They're not all behemoth global brands. There's the vast majority are small, medium-sized businesses, family businesses.
Now, a familiar face is speaking on behalf of franchise industry heavyweights. Former Liberal Minister Bruce Bilson has been lobbying his former colleagues. In an email obtained by 7:30, he warned former Treasurer and now Ambassador to the US, Joe Hockey, that big American franchises were worried about the proposed law.
As mentioned in my text message, it's likely that the White House, and in particular Vice President Pence, will express the concerns of the US franchise community about what the Turnbull government is doing in the name of protecting so-called vulnerable workers.
What exactly were you warning Joe Hockey in that?
I said there's a prospect that your counterparts in the United States will raise this issue. If you're not aware of what the issue is, here it is in the nutshell. Perfectly reasonable, quite sensible.
What would strike many as less reasonable is the process behind Bruce Bilson's appointment as the head of the Franchise Council.
I just want to say I've loved these days.
When he stood to give his final speech in Parliament in May 2016, His colleagues and taxpayers who paid his wage had no idea that he was already receiving a $75,000 a year salary as executive chairman of the lobby group.
Just if you could help with the timeline here.
Sure.
So you were appointed executive chairman, or you announced you were being appointed executive chairman at the end of March 2016?
Correct. Yes, that's right.
When did you become a director and start getting paid by the Franchise Council?
No, my appointment was made, and we announced the appointment of it as I announced that I was leaving public life. So that's all on the record, and you can have a look at all that.
Okay, but when did you start getting paid?
I'd have to check, but it'd be around that time that arrangement was announced, and then we had some transition periods before I commenced in that role.
Company records show Bruce Bilson became a director on the 9th of March last year, months before he was due to retire at the election in July 2016. The Franchise Council put out a press release about his appointment to the job at the end of March, but he never listed his new job, nor his new salary, on the compulsory register of members' interests. We asked Bruce Bilson if he had a record of making that disclosure.
Well, not off the top of my head. I don't carry that around. I mean, no one's made any inference or suggestion of the kind you're making in the time that I've left politics. So that's why I have no immediate recall of it, because it's never been a topic before. You're the first to raise it.
Okay. Do you think you should have done that?
No, because I think it's nonsense and utter crap. But if it's something you want me to check out, I'm happy to do that.
Bruce Bilson did check, and a few hours after his interview told 730 that he had not properly updated the register of interests.
It was a discourtesy to the House of Representatives and an administrative failing on my behalf. I've contacted the Clerk of the House to convey my apologies for this error.
To be head of a major business lobbying entity while still a member of Parliament, admittedly just for a few months, is irregular.
There are more Australians in work.
The government wants to bring a vote on its new bill in this session of Parliament, but it needs the support of either the opposition or the crossbench.
If the legislation doesn't get through, my concern is that the settings won't be right for us to effectively tackle deliberate and systemic worker exploitation that is going on in some parts of our labour market.
Danny Hanna hopes that despite the furious backroom lobbying, change will come to the industry he believes has left workers and franchisees burned.
A lot of people go in there with good faith, assuming these business models are designed to be able to make a living out of them and a profit after paying all your obligations. But that's extremely hard to achieve.